All right, everyone. So welcome. I welcome you all to my session. So basically, this is an introduction to cloud computing and how to make your career path in cloud computing. So it will be an introduction session. I will be talking about cloud computing. So let's look at the agenda first. So first of all, what cloud computing is and what cloud is basically, and what was the world that we were living in before cloud computing came into picture. Next, we are going to discuss why you should learn cloud computing, because let's be honest that it requires resources, it requires time, and why you should switch your career path in it. Next, we are going to discuss introduction to AWS, Amazon Web Services, its different services, and a little bit of hands-on demo. Okay, so a little bit of my introduction first, because I deserve it, obviously. I'm a big data engineer. I work in data pipelines, ETL jobs, data lakes, data warehouses, AWS migrations, and backend programming. Okay, so I know, right? I'm a complete package when it comes to big data engineering. The third fun fact about me is that I'm addicted to Nutella brownies. Yeah, I know. So if anybody else is going through the same thing, let me know so that we can just make a connection. So here's my LinkedIn connection. If anyone wants to connect with me, you can connect here. All right, so let's start. So basically, why cloud, and what was the world that we were living in before cloud came into picture? So let's just take an example that you want to host your website, and you would buy, so like 15 years ago, what normally you would buy a stack of servers, and then you would have to keep in under consideration the high traffic, the peak hours. Basically, peak hours means when the traffic is going to be the most. Basically, it could be between 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. because that's the time when people are free the most. Later on, you would have to monitor and maintain your servers. So these are the things that you would usually do, and there were some disadvantages that came along with these things that I'm going to discuss now. So let's be real, guys. If you are buying stack of servers, they are not very cheap. They are very costly. They're very expensive. So yeah, you have to invest a lot of them. Another disadvantage that contributed to this one is that troubleshooting. If you have a set of server, you have to troubleshoot them, you have to monitor them, you have to configure them. So basically, like, you have to invest a lot of your time into troubleshooting the problems instead of focusing on your business goals and your expanding your application that you should focus on. You could just hire another guy like for these things, but that's just like investing more resources and time and money into these things. Another thing that was the problem with buying these traditional servers, that traffic varies. Like I already said that there are peak hours and then the traffic declines. So after that, you don't need those additional servers that you have already bought. So what's the point of like investing so much money in them? Another thing to focus on is that when you are facing peak hours, you have to buy the maximum amount of servers so that you can pertain to the needs of that high traffic. Otherwise, your website is going to face downtime, which you don't want, obviously. So these are the traditional problems that were with before cloud computing came into picture. So now what happens that we have cloud computing industry. So basically cloud providers, they let you rent those servers that before you have your own data centers, but now they let you rent their data centers, their machines, their computers, so that you don't need to buy expensive servers. You can just buy them like on minute basis, on hourly basis, or maybe on yearly basis, whatever you want. And you can even spin up your instances like even in a minute. It doesn't take much time, like buying a server and setting it up. You don't need to maintain any infrastructure. Cloud providers does that for you. So another thing about is the scalability, like when the traffic comes up and down, you don't want to face any downtime. So basically you don't need to worry about the scalability of your website. Cloud providers manage it themselves. They scale up your resources whenever the traffic is in peak hours, and they scale down your resources whenever your traffic is no more. So that's the good thing about them. Another thing about cloud providers is that they manage your servers. You don't have to configure them and troubleshoot them, physically go and then troubleshoot them and anything else. The underlying infrastructure is being managed by them. You just have to you don't have to worry about the security patches, security codes, and anything like that. They are taking care of that. You just have to maintain your infrastructure and whatever you want to install on them. So next, so what basically is cloud because I've been talking about cloud computing so long, and let me discuss what cloud is. So basically, cloud gives you the ability to connect to remote web servers to process, manage, and compute your data, so that you don't have to do that on your local servers or local computers. So basically, to simplify it, maybe cloud gives you the ability to orchestrate your functionalities, manage your resources, control your resources into a network, so that you don't have, like, you can rent those resources and you don't have to worry about maintaining and configuring and managing those resources basically. So cloud computing follows pay as you go model, so you can basically rent those resources whenever you want, and then you can let go of them if you don't need them anymore. So let me basically simplify it. So a bunch of people just went ahead and bought a couple of like data centers. So now they have maintained a channel where you can rent those services, compute services and storage services whenever you want, based on your needs. So that is basically cloud, and cloud computing is the same as I've already told, that it's the ability that lets you compute, process, and store your data like on unlimited storage that is provided on the web. So like you could be anywhere and you can access your data. All you need is a high-speed internet connection. All right, so let me discuss some of the service models that are very necessary to keep in mind, because all the cloud providers are following these service models. So first of all is software as a service. So SaaS means that you're just using the software, you're not maintaining or configuring any infrastructure, you're just like using it. Like you can take the example of Gmail or maybe Salesforce, where you take a subscription and you don't manage any underlying resources or infrastructure, you just use whatever you want. Okay, that's like it, that's basically SaaS. And platform as a service means that you are using that platform, you can build your applications there and deploy there, but you don't have to worry about the infrastructure, you don't have to configure anything. You just like they give you an upload button where you can upload your data, your files, and your website is deployed. You don't have to worry about the deployments issues and whatever installations are required, you don't have to worry about that. That's platform as a service. So the last one is infrastructure as a service. So that's basically they give you a fresh new piece of computer like any server. They like you can choose the soft OS, basic OS that you want on them, and then you can install whatever you want. You can make it either a DB server, you could make it a web server, whatever you want. You can do your installations, configure them, monitor them, whatever you want. You just maintain your infrastructure, and yeah, that's it. So let me talk about the like most famous cloud providers all over the world. So when it comes to cloud providers, the first name that comes into mind is Amazon Web Services, because let's be honest, it has the Amazon brand name to it. So basically, Amazon Web Services, when it comes to cloud computing industry, I would say that Amazon Web Services is the king of cloud industry, because it contains 33% industry of it shares of the cloud computing industry. So basically, it rules the industry, and later comes Microsoft Azure, which contains 13%, and then comes Google Cloud Platform. So if you have to start learning Amazon Web Services or cloud computing, basically, you could start with Amazon Web Services, because like, why am I endorsing AWS so much? Because it has great flexible pricing. It gives you great prices, flexibility, great services, and it's very user friendly. You could easily deploy it even if you don't know anything about programming or whatever. So it's very easy to learn. Okay, so let's move ahead. So these are the companies that have already been shifted onto AWS, and they very much endorse AWS. So basically, let's focus on Netflix, which shifted onto AWS in 2006. They were one of the first customers of AWS, and AWS claims that they made them very better throughout the time, because Netflix, you know that you can imagine what kind of surge traffic Netflix faces, and if Netflix has AWS in the backend, you can imagine how durable and reliable AWS actually is, because like you can totally trust on their security, their durability, and their availability. So next comes Twitch, LinkedIn, Facebook. These are the big giant tech companies, and if they trust AWS, I think AWS is the good start for you. All right, so let's move on to why you should learn cloud computing, because I know that it takes time and courage and resources for you. So why you should invest in cloud computing? So let me tell you that these days there isn't much competition in cloud computing. Like if you learn the skills, you could actually easily get a job. Okay, so by 2023, it is said that 623 billion dollars is going to exceed in the cloud computing market. So basically, it's a very rich market, and these days there isn't much competition here. So I would highly suggest you to invest in cloud computing. So next comes the reason that about a third of the company's IT's budget go to cloud services. Like 90% of the companies are already on the cloud, and the rest of them are also moving towards it. So even if you are a developer, IT guy, or a QA, like in the coming future, you would really need to learn cloud computing as a skill, because all the companies would require it to do so. So basically, let me tell you how many jobs are posted per month on the Glassdoor. So almost 40,000 jobs are per month are posted in the US alone for cloud engineers and cloud architects. So it is a very hot market these days, and if you learn these skills, if you invest in these skills, it's gonna pay you a lot in the coming future. So like I've seen people earning $200,000 to $300,000 per annum based on their 2 to 3 years of cloud computing experience. And let's just go ahead and I'll tell you what are the jobs and responsibilities for it if you want to learn it. So if you want to become a cloud engineer, basically, or a cloud architect, you would have to participate in planning, implementing, and architecting all the server infrastructure on cloud, because it's basically your own data centers, but you are managing it on the cloud. So you have to manage the downscaling, upscaling, what like cost optimization strategies, whatever it is that you can manage on the cloud. Next is that you don't have to be a full stack application developer, but it would be a great thing for you, like if you know how the application is working, because you have to eventually deploy them. DevOps is a necessary skill in order to be a cloud engineer, so you know how APIs work, how databases work, and how they are deployed. You don't need to know the actual programming, but you should know that how it is developed, like deployed, sorry. So the next is that you should know your ways around Unix and Linux system, and you should know how those OS work and their basic commands, and then you're good to go. All right, so these are the necessary skills for cloud engineer or cloud architect. You should know your ways around APIs, okay, your tools, which tools go with the cloud, DevOps, your Linux and OS or Linux operating system familiarity, and programming language. Any one of the programming language could work for you. So these are the required skills if you want to switch towards this career. All right, so like I would highly recommend you to get a certification if you want to move towards cloud computing, because if you are applying for a job, supposedly in AWS, and if you already are certified by AWS, so that's going to increase your chances very much, because you are already certified by the tech giant, and it could increase your chances to get the job done. And also, if you are certified, mostly developers who are certified developer associate, they are earning $130,000, and same is the case with solutions architect. So it's just not much of the preparation is required. You just need to prepare for like 1 or 2 months and invest a little bit of time. And if you are AWS certified, it's going to pay you in the long run. So it's for your own benefit. There are multiple certifications that are there, and you could just go and check them out. So let's just do some hands-on, and let me present to you. All right, so Amazon Web Services, this is the main website. If you are just starting your way, you should go there. So let me just show you their products. Like they have so many products, but it could be a little bit overwhelming for you in the beginning, but you don't have to worry about them, because they have very rich documentation. One of the reasons why I am endorsing them so much, because they have so many documentation, and they continuously are working on their documentation, and it's very easy to read as well. So the documentation contains different how to deploy your application. If you're a starter, how to start an application, deploy and develop in AWS cloud. So basically these are the different products. So this one is Amazon EC2, and this one is very famous. Service, like you can being like deploying a web server or a DB server. So let's move on to their global infrastructure. So basically, when I mentioned that you could be anywhere in the world and your cloud, you could connect to your cloud. So basically, these are the regions that AWS provides. So in all of these regions, there are availability zones, which are basically different buildings, so that your data is always reliable. Even if one availability stops working, your data is automatically replicated towards multiple availability zones, so that you don't have to worry about your data. That's why AWS is very durable, and it's very effective when it comes to the security and like managing your data. So basically, if you are just starting your way, I would highly recommend to use AWS free tier account. So basically, they give you a free account. You don't have to pay for anything. There are some services like compute and storage services, which you can use, like maybe do some hands-on on it and deploy some services. And this is free for the first year. So if you are just learning different services, I would highly recommend to like do some practicals on the free tier account, and it would help you a lot in the long run. So the this is from my end. If you have any question, or you just you could type them in the chat, because we have 1 or 2 minutes, maybe like we have 3 minutes right now. So if you want to ask something, go ahead. Okay, so I guess that's it, and thank you for attending this session. It was a great session, and thank you so much for attending. See you again. Bye bye. All right, so one person has asked about how good is the AWS course on Udemy. I would highly recommend you to go through their own documentation rather than focusing on any Udemy courses. Yeah, there are many good courses available on Udemy, but AWS provides their own courses that you should like. They are uploaded by their own architects and developers. So I would highly recommend those courses rather than going on third parties courses. All right, so thank you very much. And I'm gonna leave. Bye bye. Take care. Stay safe.